I'm Patricia Dawson, co-owner of Fresh Lunch Yellow Box, the only meal service in Houston tailored specifically for kids. And I'm here with Vanessa, co-owner of the Learning Sphere, a pediatric speech therapy center located right here in Spring Branch. So I asked to interview Vanessa about a topic called picky eating, the very topic that a lot of parents are familiar with, because I know a lot of our customers experience this in their own homes. And I thought it'd be useful to learn a couple of strategies that may provide positive change. So today's interview will cover just some high points. If you want some more hands-on detailed advice, the Learning Sphere has 2 interactive parent workshops coming up, right, at We Rock the Spectrum Houston Memorial. And you can bring your kids and they can have some playtime, and you can have some good one-on-one time with Vanessa and learn some really tactical hands-on strategies to address picky eating. But we'll cover some good high points today as well. So previously, Vanessa and I had talked about some specific advice that has worked well in my own house. You know, my daughter is the test point for a lot of our meals, and so I bring home a lot of new foods, and she gets the opportunity to try new things regularly. And those ideas were really, really helpful. So we'll get into those specifics here in a minute. But Vanessa, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a feeding specialist.
Okay. Sure, I'm a speech and language pathologist. I have a master's degree in communication sciences and disorders from the University of Texas at Austin. I got that in 2000. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that we as speech and language pathologists also learn about feeding disorders. And I was in the medical track at UT Austin, and I did my master's thesis on dysphagia, which is swallowing disorders. And I've been, interested in it ever since. And it was kind of one of the catalysts for opening at this clinic with my partner, Taz Kajani, because we wanted to be able to help picky eaters. We weren't able to give them a lot of help in some of the other clinics where we worked. And we felt like they were just as important as other people with feeding and swallowing disorders.
Yeah, you were mentioning there's a lot of support out there for severe challenges, but families facing a real struggle that may not be clinically diagnosed due to a physical condition like cerebral palsy or something else. Exactly. There's not really insurance related or really services tailored or geared towards
It's much more difficult for those children who don't have some kind of physical involvement.
Yeah, and they kind of fall through the cracks in terms of finding help. Well, that's great. Well, we're really glad you're here, and I know it's going to be a welcome addition to the Houston community to be able to learn how to overcome this, because it's a real challenge for a lot of families. So let's talk about that popular phrase, picky eater. It gets used a lot. What does it really mean?
Well, I really think that anyone who is feeling anxiety about food, and is any family that is having a consistent mealtime battle with their child, that child is a picky eater. Now, there is a range of what that looks like. We actually separated out into picky eaters and problem feeders. Okay. So what that would look like is a picky eater, they're going to limit their food, they're going to engage in battle with mom. The problem feeder is going to limit the food to, they're going to have less than 20 foods they're going to eat. And I currently had a parent who just called me her kid's down to 1 food. That's definitely
so stressful.
That is definitely a problem feeder right there. Another thing, a picky eater, they may be liking peanut butter and jelly, let's say, and then all of a sudden they're bored with that. They've eaten that every day. So the problem feeder, they're going to stop eating it, and then you're going to have a hard time getting that back into their diet. Okay. The picky eater, you may take a break with that. You introduce it 2 weeks later, they're back on track with it. Okay. So you can kind of just get a little bit of a picture. There's more kind of variables, but you can get a picture. The problem feeders have extreme anxiety around food.
Okay. Yeah, and that would be tough. What are some things that cause picky eating? What brings a kid into the picky eating realm?
So the picky eater, the problem feeder, we have some, it could just be as simple as that they're 1-year-old, they're learning to assert their independence, and they've got some control issues going on. The only thing that a toddler really has control of is their mouth. Mom and dad are carting them around, telling them what to do. But when you're 1-year-old,
what you say and what you put in your mouth.
That's right. So you've got the control, and then the whole toddler years, you guys know about that. It's difficult. So then once you start getting in the battle, it just gets worse. So you could have that going on. Then you could have kids who, they had reflux. You could have like some issues that were physiological. You could have reflux, you could have had a G tube. So you've just got this anxiety, like food is causing me pain or food
Right.
didn't feel good. And then you've got your kids on the autism spectrum who have sensory processing difficulty. So they could be overwhelmed by
The
like
number of colors.
the number of colors, the texture, the smell. I mean, there's just so many different factors. So those are all some of the things that could cause picky eating or being a problem feeder.
Gotcha. And you were saying even with children who maybe had reflux or other physical reactions to food early on, and it's no longer a problem, they could still have a mental association to certain foods. They may not even know why they don't like it. They have anxiety towards
Yes.
that food as a result of that from
Yes.
early years.
The mind's capacity to remember a traumatic event is just amazing. You know, and related to that, my husband just the other day, who's 58 years old, was telling me that he doesn't want to eat popsicles because when he was small, popsicle sticks remind him of a tongue depressor, and when he was small, he was ill a lot, and he was always having a tongue depressor.
Wow.
So that whole oral connection right there, you know, it's huge.
Yeah, 40, 50 years later, and it's still having an
Yes.
impact. So
Mhm.
can imagine kids. And I know it can be really, overwhelming for families, whether it's just a child trying to exert control or it's a real clinical reason, because that struggle at the table is problematic, and especially for anybody, not even especially just for anybody. Why would you recommend parents work with their children to overcome that as opposed to just finding the foods that they know their kids will reliably eat and put that on the table?
Mhm. Yeah, that's so it's so interesting. So the word work, you know, it's like we do have to work hard, but we do want to work on this in a relaxed way, in a fun way, and we'll get to that later. But the reasons we do want to we do want to address being a picky eater is obviously we want our meal times to, I mean, who doesn't want to get rid of a mealtime battle? I mean,
Right.
we want our meals to be fun. A friend of mine recently said, you know, her mealtime battle with her kids just took the joy out of her cooking. So one, we want to have a better quality of life. Two, we want to be healthy.
Yeah, healthy is a big part of it.
Healthy,
So it's something
having
we're passionate
balanced meals like what you provide, it's gonna, I mean, your kid's just gonna do better in school. They're gonna be more alert, they're cognitive. And you know, you can give your kids supplements, but there's nothing like a whole food. If you're repetitively, if you are a rigid eater and you're only eating one food, you can develop allergy symptoms. You can have diarrhea. You can have constipation. I mean, there's
a lot of
just
challenges.
so many. So, you know, like I said, better, happier families, healthier bodies. Those two things are huge.
Yeah, the nutrients that we get from our food, let food be thy medicine. That's very close to why I started this business,
Mhm.
because I have a high degree of interest in making sure that my daughter has the right amount of fat, protein, and carbs,
So important.
especially in the younger years, with fat being really crucial to a healthy brain
Mhm.
development. And of course, protein being adequate as their bodies are expanding very, very rapidly and their muscles are developing. So I'm definitely behind that 100%. And it makes a lot of sense. So it's important. And how does a parent get started? What are maybe 5 key things that you could offer to a parent or a family as strategies that they could incorporate to try to set their child up for success?
Sure. So one of the things, and I've talked a little bit about this, is you want to find a way to make your mealtime a little bit more fun. So you want to watch your language, and you want to make mealtime relaxed. We cannot, as far as language, I hear a lot of parents saying, I tried to get him to eat. I tried to get him to do this. We want to avoid that kind of language. We want, when we're giving that kind of language to our child, it's a stress and anxiety. So if, for example, if I'm telling Patricia, I mean, just look what she's doing. She's backing up. Patricia, you need to eat this.
Yeah, I can imagine being a kid.
It's
You're
just
like, hey.
stressful. If you especially if you have autism, you're already anxious about the food, and I'm sure all of you aren't going to eat that. But if the pressure, whenever someone's pressuring you to eat, your anxiety goes up, and anxiety inhibits your desire to eat. So increased anxiety. Mom's got anxiety because she's worried her kid's not getting nutrition, which,
Right.
sorry guys, I know you moms are out there worried that your kid's not getting nutrition. That increases the anxiety. Then your kids got anxiety because they don't like the food. So we just got to stop the pushing the food and just put it on the table.
And just have fun.
Simply your job is not to make your child eat. Your job is to give your child the opportunity to eat. That is,
Yeah, and that's kind of
huge.
point number 2, right? The roles.
yes, the roles. And what is so important about that is you've just reduced the mealtime battle. If you are not telling your child to do something, there's no battle, right? So if you are just exposing it, some parents might ask me, well, I put that on the table, they're going to tell me to take it off. They can remove the food if they want to and I will tell them, put it in not so sure that, or I want to move. They can have control. What your job is to put it on the table. Their job is to take control of the food. They can
Okay.
either put it in their mouth, they can move it. Your job, the parent's job, is not to move the food. Once the food's on the table, the child has the job.
Yeah.
If he wants to cover it with a napkin, whatever it needs to be, but it has to be on the table. And you might not want to put it in your child's plate if they're extremely anxious. You can just have it in a community bowl
Nearby.
nearby. So basically, you want it to show up. We want to pay attention to your role. Your role is to give them the opportunity. Their job is to decide what goes in their body. And then having the family eating together, that gives you more opportunities to have new foods show up.
And to see other people in the family eating those foods and taking
Exactly.
enjoyment from it.
And then
it's
you
kind of
can
like
just-
the fear of missing out. And
Right.
They see other people enjoying something and they might be more inclined to try
And
it.
then you can do nice modeling of healthy eating behaviors, which Tricia and I will get into in a little bit. And then there's the whole sensory system. I just kind of modeled a few sensory strategies. If your child has sensory processing disorders, you need to, sometimes it takes like 90 different interactions
Yeah,
with food before
interactions.
they'll want to eat it. So if it's not on the table, you don't have an opportunity. They don't have time to have a learning experience.
And learning, you've used that word a lot. Talk about replacing that word with don't
Right.
like, because I think
Thank
that's
you,
really
Patricia. That is really important to me. So a lot of times a parent will say, oh, my child doesn't like that. He just won't eat it. And a lot of times it's really that the child is learning about the food. They haven't had that experience. So if we're saying that our child doesn't like it, the food does not show up on the table, then the child does not have the opportunity to learn about it and have that sensory processing experiencing. And I recently actually had a kid who's come here for one of our summer camps. That was like when the light bulb went on for the parent. She was like, oh my gosh, I just realized I've been limiting what my child's eating because I'm just
because she was trying to listen to him
and she was
serve
just
food that he
assuming
likes.
that he wasn't going to like it, and so then it wasn't even showing up on the table.
And it's that word like too. Our kids are listening, and if they're nearby and we're saying, "Oh, she doesn't like that.
Exactly.
She doesn't. She won't eat it. She doesn't like it." They're going to hear that, and they're going to say, "Well, I don't like that because that's what
Right.
Mommy and
That
Daddy
is
said." And it kind
huge.
of gives them permission to not like entire sets of food, as opposed to what's the way you like for parents to refer to something, learning about that,
I'm
right?
learning. I'm still learning about that food.
And so I can say about my daughter, especially if she's nearby, oh, well, she's still learning about that, as opposed to she doesn't like that. And I think that also opens up the space for them to want to come to the food and learn about it, as opposed to creating that line where, well, I don't like it,
Right.
so I don't interact with it.
And I give families, like when they come to see me, I give them the tools of how to help their child learn about different foods.
That's great.
Mhm.
That's great. And we've spoken about several of those before. The one that's worked well, the best for my daughter, and the way we kind of approach mealtime, we're very big about eating as a family. I get a lot of pleasure from cooking for my family. So even on busy days, even if I'm just throwing together my leftover salad, which is find things in the fridge that taste okay together and throw them in a bowl, and that's leftover salad. I like to put food on the table for them. And with my daughter, from the time she's been able to pick up her own food, I stopped feeding her, like physically being the one to deliver food into her mouth. I just put it on the plate, and she's going to use her utensil or fingers, whatever makes the most, whatever's working for her that
Sure.
day. But with new foods, I'll just put it on the plate and walk away. And a lot of times she'll say, "No, mama, no, mama, take that off. I don't want that." And I'll say, "That's okay. You don't have to eat it. We're really chill
Perfect.
about it. Hey, you don't have to eat it. Look, I'm just going to leave it there. I'll get it later." So I'm kind of,
That's
making her
good.
feel like I'm listening to her. I'll get it later, and you don't have to eat it. It's no problem. If you want to eat it, great. If you don't, no problem. And I just leave it alone. And sometimes I'll pick off of her plate. I'll say, "Oh, let me have a bite of that because it's yummy." And I'll grab it and I'll eat it. Yeah, "Oh, it's so yummy. Dad, do you want some?" Dad says, "Oh, yeah, it's yummy." And he takes a bite. And we don't go overboard the whole
Mhm.
dinner with the new food. I make sure there's a few things on her plate that I know she will eat so that she's not resisting sitting at the
Mhm.
table completely.
Right.
And that was a strategy you taught me. And 8 out of 10 times she finishes everything on her plate, even if it's a brand new
That's great.
food. So that has been really successful. Just completely no pressure. Sometimes she'll say, "Hey, Mom, I want oatmeal with strawberries."
Mhm.
We'll say, "That's great. You can have it for breakfast because right now that's best for dinner."
Mhm.
And we just move along, and I don't make a big deal
Right.
about it.
Now, and those are all excellent, and that's going to really help what she's talking about. That's a beautiful example. That's going to help reduce any kind of mealtime battle because she's got a toddler. Her little toddler is going to be wanting to control, and
She's
so
2 going on 10.
if
Yeah.
you have a child who's just a picky eater, but who's been a picky eater for a while, it's going to take a little bit more of time doing what Patricia's doing for you to see a change at mealtime. You've got to stick with these kind of things. It's hard. But then if you have a problem feeder, it's going to take even more time. So you really need to stick with this. And it's so
It's
important.
like a marathon.
You just have to keep, you just have to keep saying, "That's okay. You don't have to eat it." You have to keep giving those opportunities, saying, "That's okay. You don't have to eat it." And with the problem feeders, you do want to make sure that you have at least one food that they already can eat on the table, because one of the myths that a lot of people have, and I know a lot of parents get pressure of like, you should just put on the food on the table and your child's going to eat it.
They're not going to starve themselves.
Yeah. But with a lot of children who have sensory processing disorder, they will starve themselves. So give them variety, put a food they like. Now, here's the thing. If they were eating peanut butter and jelly yesterday, and they like peanut butter and jelly, and you put it on the table today and they say, "No, Mom, I don't want that." You say, "Well, that's all I have." You know they like it. You know you've put a food on the table that they like and you've got some variety. That's a perfect way to do that, to handle that. Mm-hmm.
And that's what we like about our meals too, just to kind of talk about the Fresh Lunch Yellow Box meals a little bit, is they have a lot of good, really common foods. We try to make foods that are common to what a lot of families would cook at their table. But people get busy. It's hard to shop for and provide a lot of variety. Everybody gets into the routine, kind of providing the same things over and over. And whether it's lunch or dinner, these meals provide a really good opportunity for kids to experience different types of things. And there's more than enough portion size for each age group for them to eat most of it, not all of it, and still be completely satiated. But they're also good. They're not kids' food. That's something that's really important and close to my heart. We do not make kids' food. We make food for kids. We are not trying to make chicken nuggets and French fries that are out of healthy ingredients. It's just not that those are bad, but it's not what a balanced palate should be eating on a regular basis.
Something that everybody, the whole family is going to eat.
Yeah, exactly. And so hopefully our foods are things that parents can try with their kids, and they can experience it together, and they can model some behaviors in eating the food, trying the food, or exploring the food that will encourage the kids to eat it. And at the very least, if they don't, then it's still delicious. And so parents,
it looks really pretty. I love to eat, so I want to dig in.
Excellent. Now, a lot of these suggestions feel very younger kid centric. What about parents with older kids? Are there any different strategies for, say, teenagers who have developed poor eating habits?
Yeah. So the longer you've been a picky eater, the longer, it's going to take for change. So like we've been talking about, if you don't have the food on the table, if you don't get exposed to the different foods, if you're not changing your language, you're not going to have change. So it's the same thing with a teenager. You want to be at their cognitive level. You want to give them control about different things. Where you can change things up. Where would you like to eat today? Make it fun. You want to do a Moroccan style meal on the floor? I don't know. Whatever give your kids some control about mealtime, and then you put different food on the table and see what happens. There's also, I have like these really great little questions that I will do with kids. Sometimes we'll have like fun mealtime questions.
Okay.
You can do like silly things to focus the meal on fun topic rather than on, oh my God, are you going to eat the food? Did you eat the food? Did she eat the food? Do you like the food? Ooh, and here, so I just touched this wonderful rice dish here. So I'm thinking to myself, if I were a sensory person, I might have had a freak out situation. So I'm going to use this opportunity, if it's okay, Patricia.
Sure.
So if I were a parent and I had a food and I touched something and I wasn't sure about it, I'd be like, that's a little sticky. I'm not so sure about this. I'm still learning about this rice. I'm going to move this over here. I had a sticky kind of reaction, but maybe I'm going to be brave a little bit later and I might go smell it. Okay. I'm still learning about that. One. Later, I might even take a little taste. I'm still not sure. I can put it in my spit out cup.
Okay. And you recommend parents actually say that and sort of verbally describe the behavior so that the kid can kind of hear it and process it.
And it's how you're
maybe not for a 15-year-old.
For the parent. Well, no, as a parent, if I'm, feeling like not sure about a food, I want to model healthy, like I'm going to be brave about this food. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable tasting it yet, but I'm going to check it out and think about this food. I'm going to touch it.
Okay.
If I might get a fork. If I don't feel comfortable touching it, I might get a fork and stick it in. So I'm going to model my own behavior. There's a lot of parents out there who are picky eaters. So if you're a picky eater, you can model how you're working through being a picky eater during the mealtime. You don't want to be telling,
that looks
Josh, you do this with your food. You want to model how to be with your food so that your child can learn how to be with their food.
Well, that's great advice and pretty pertinent for all sorts of things we're trying to teach our children, not just eating, honestly. So excellent. We did have a few questions that came in through social media.
Okay.
I think we answered most of those, but did you want to just kind of touch on a couple
I'll
of those?
just wrap up. We did. One of the parents was telling me that this was really interesting, and I don't hear this as much, but it does pop up. And so some of the families with kids with autism, they will be experiencing this. And this parent said to me, my kid only eats, he'll eat at school, but he's not eating at home.
Okay.
So what's going on with that? And I don't know the child, so I can have some assumptions. One could be that it's a control thing, or the other could be that it's related to routine. So if your child has autism, they're used to having XYZ at home. This is how it's done. I have this here. And then at school, we do it this way. So you will see these things happening. So I wanted to talk about routines a little bit. If you do have a routine, it's a wonderful way to introduce new learning. So if, say, your kid eats at 5 p.m. and they get strawberries and yogurt and chicken nuggets, you can put on their plate strawberries, yogurt, and chicken nugget, and then you can maybe put your little muffin right here on the center of the table. And if they protest about the muffin, you can say, you don't have to eat that. I just put it on the table. I might want to eat one later, And then if they are still kind of worried about the muffin, you could say, if it's too close to you, you can move that muffin over there. show the child that they have control of the muffin. You have control of putting food on the table. So that's one way to kind of use the routine to allow for a little bit of change.
Oh, that's good advice. Well, a lot of good advice here today. We talked about have fun, make mealtime fun, make it a no pressure, chilled situation. Eat as a family, which is really important for the children to see all the members of the family, not just the time you're spending together, but they can see and witness people eating other things.
Right.
Watch the language that you're using.
Yes.
Make sure you're using words that are more encouraging and open that space up for kids to expose and learn about new foods. Be mindful of your roles, that your role is not to put the food in the child's mouth. That's their role. Your role is to put it on the table and to provide variety and to provide information and education. And then the sensory strategies.
Yes. And then so like that if your child is really having severe problems with the sensory processing of food, that is a little bit harder to learn, and that is something that I teach you in the workshop.
ASMR one.
Yeah, I gave a couple of examples of the sensory system when I was talking about how, if your child feels uncomfortable with the food on the plate, you can tell them to put it in the not so sure cup, or you can then, or if it's too close, then they can take responsibility to move it. So those are some examples of the sensory system, but it's a huge system, and we do have a workshop.
Let's talk about how people can find out more about you and about the workshop, and when are the workshops.
Okay, so we have 2 workshops coming up at We Rock the Spectrum Houston Memorial. One is a morning workshop on September 26th, and then the other one is an evening workshop on October 3rd. You can go to our website and look up events. That's the learningsphere.com events. If you are interested in the workshop, and you can just sign up and register right there. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else?
I don't think so. You talked about the morning one, the afternoon one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And if you would like to experience ready-to-eat kids' meals that are nutritionally balanced by age and macro balanced, so they have the right amount of protein, fat, and carbs, ready to eat, delivered straight to your door, just check us out at freshlunchboxes.com. Okay.
That's great.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Patricia.
Okay.
Bye.